Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Sunday Sitting with Sisters. It is Sister Ro, and this morning I want to kind of come and talk to y'all a bit and to get your responses and your thoughts. And I feel like as Black people, we have to uh, sometimes stop and have these conversations, things that only we can say to each other for real, for real. Um, and one of the things that I'm asking about and why I'm coming to you all is that we're going to talk about family a little bit this morning and the things that we learn. And I think I think Black folks do a pretty good job, especially the ones that I'm around. But I also feel like sometimes we do pass down things that we should probably take a look at. If you're so blessed and so lucky, depending on what word you like to use, you would be able to say how many generations are in your family, and you would be so proud of that. To talk about the generations that you have. Like I'm gonna put this picture up. And as you can see, these are five generations. I don't know if you all seen this picture before, but these are five generations. There's a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, a great grandmother, and a great great grandmother. That's five generations. And if you are so blessed and lucky, um, maybe you could take a picture like this. But when you look at a photo like this, you have to think that each of the women in that story has their own personal story of how they had to work through um, their own issues. You know what I mean? And so I keep hearing this term generational curses. And I'm like, sometimes when we discover a new word, we run with it, but we don't even know that there's a history. And I was always taught that words have power. And I don't know if that's because my mom's mother, and this is for people who don't even know their own history but claim people, was deaf and mute. And my mother was really into words and how words made you feel and how words sound. And so when you claim something as a curse, you kind of give power to it. You can make, so I don't use the word curse. I don't really believe in curses and shit like that. I would say these are generational blessings or generational blessings, or, I kind of talk like that. I don't say the word curse because curses aren't real to me. You know what I mean? They're just not. Now I believe that when we cuss at people, that could be somewhat of a, putting bad words on people or bad energy. But when you look at this picture and you see these five generations, the generation that you're in, like if I was on here and if I had birth children, I guess I would be like maybe the mother in this, because maybe my daughter wouldn't have children yet. But then again, who knows? I may be the grandmother in this. You know what I'm saying? So we all have stories, all of us, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, our mama, everybody got their story of survival. And I think sometimes we, in our need uh, to want to be seen, to want to claim our story, we act like nobody else's story matters, or we'll pull stuff from other people's stories and act like it is your story. You know what I mean? So, for instance, my mother worked, blessed memory. She worked a lot of jobs because she was trying to provide for her family. She was providing for her family. So I don't get to take that on. You understand what I'm saying? Because of her sacrifice, I have one job and I get to create the job that I have. But that was because of her blessings, the generational blessing that my mom's given me, the generational lessons that I learned from her. Like, I think we really got to talk about what does this really mean? You know what I mean? Um, but I think sometimes we kind of have it twisted a little bit. So if you're so blessed and lucky to know your grandmother or your great grandmother or your great great grandmother, if she's ever touched you, you have a picture with you and your grandmother, your great grandmother, your great great grandmother, whoever, and they're no longer here on the planet. That is such a blessing because y'all got to cross on their way to going to the ancestors. You know what I mean? So sometimes we don't look at that as a blessing. A woman once had a gray patch of hair right here in her head. And when I asked her about how she got that gray patch, she said that when she was born, her grandmother, something about her grandmother touching her head or her great grandmother, whatever. That was the only part of her hair that was gray. Something like that to the story. I'm trying to remember. But there is something about being able to touch generations or be able to be captured in a picture with them that allows you to have so many more blessings in your life. And sometimes we don't even understand the blessing and being able to have or to know your generations. And I mean really know them, not just shout their names out, but to really, really know who they are. And most times we don't know, but then we'll speak. That's why I don't like generic history. We'll speak like if everybody had the same experiences, but just like a fingerprint, all of us have our unique story and how we handle situations. And so I want to first start off with this picture of the five generations, because if you're so blessed to be able to know them, you could kind of and to get to know their story, it would help you understand your own life. It don't mean that you get to claim their mishaps as your own, or their struggles as your own, or their successes as your own. Don't really mean that. It just means that now you have a playbook. And if they're alive, you have a living playbook and you could change some things. But see, I find that that's where the work is. And that's what I don't see people doing. Like, we don't like to really do work. We just don't. We like to blame other people for what we don't have, but we clearly don't like to do the work, because when you do the work, that means that there's some accountability in there. And I don't know about you all, but I come from a generation where you had to take accountability for yourself. Like, that was who I came from, you know. So when I hear people talking about depression and struggling with their mental health, I'm not saying that that's not real, because it is. Everybody has their own struggles and anguish, and all of that is true. But I also know that I've met some people who are in this world alone, and they are by themselves. They are here on the planet, no relatives. I mean, they are out here and they're struggling with their mental health. But in their struggle, they don't beat up on other people. They don't say stuff about other people and then claim it's their mental health. They just don't. I've never known any who've done that. They may do some things to harm themselves, but I've never seen them harm other people, honestly, intentionally. I've never seen that. Pieces. I've never seen that, honestly. So I feel like sometimes, you know, we got to really talk about what does mental health really look like, or what it could look like, or what are some of the symptoms. Like when you know that someone's struggling mentally. I think when people have what's the word I'm looking for? Like fears or, anxiety, you know, what does that look like as opposed to when someone is really dealing with deep, disturbing mental health issues? You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes we've allowed the very people who put us into this condition. In terms of, a friend of mine said once that, because she's a psychologist and she's the bomb, I love her. And she said one of the things when she was obtaining her degree, she said, and she started to study the people who is over the mental health, of this country, or, the fathers, whatever. She said they was crazy as hell. So you have to be very careful when you're using techniques of people to make sure those are not the techniques that got us into this shit in the first place. You know what I mean? We got to be very careful with that. We really do. I'm watching some young people really struggle, you know what I mean, with their mental health, with things that have happened to them, and they're trying to put them into these boxes. Or one young lady told me that, I asked, because part of the question was, how do you cope when you have like a fear, or, you can't do something, and like you're frozen with fear, or you have anxiety. And she said, I talked to my grandmother. Now I thought to myself, wow, like that's beautiful. She said, yeah, I talked to my grandmother. And I said, well, what are the kind of things that, and she said, my grandmother hugs me and she tells me everything's going to be okay. Or, so immediately what I began to know that to be true is that usually you're looking for some type of comfort, because she said, is her grandmother really comforts her. you know. And she said that's one thing that helps her to make it through. But also, as we started talking, we were beginning to uncover that even though that's okay for the moment, because sometimes you need immediate comfort. That's why people smoke so much goddamn weed. That's why people drink so much. That's why people want to party so much, because I think we're looking for ways to lighten the load, to make us get some comfort or some relief. But at some point, you kind of have to do the work. I was sharing with the young lady, I was saying, if you do not take time, and how blessed you are that you're young, to address those traumas and things that have happened to you. Because the little sister had taken the ACEs survey and she had got she had the highest score and it was really up there. And I was telling her that if you do not address those things, that as you live your life, they are going to impact how you communicate with other people, the relationships that you'll have, your children, how you rear your children. Like all of that will affect who you are and your environment. And we, for some reason, in our communities, we do like to do it's going to be okay. And things will be okay anyway, because that's just the way the universe rolls. But I, I don't want you to have this long journey of hardship and always hitting brick walls because you haven't gotten any real tools to figure out how to let these things out of your head, how to address them. Another thing they talked about writing, and then somebody finally said you should probably go to therapy. But and then one girl said I've been to therapy and my therapist didn't uh, she wasn't very helpful, you know. And then we talked about finding the right therapist because I do agree with that. I've been to therapy, and the best therapist I had was a black man in Southern Cal. But one time I went to another therapist, and she kind of got on my nerves. I didn't want to cuss her out, but she kind of got on my nerves because she didn't really know who the fuck I was. So, uh, and she was coming with some other stuff. And again, culturally, you have to know people, and have understanding. It don't mean that you come with some baloney, but it's kind of like really understanding and listening. I find sometimes that people don't intentionally listen. It's kind of like they sum you up, like you want to book number 20. This is a Negro that's to be. Like, it doesn't work like that when you're Black. All of us have our unique experiences. So, um, you know, I feel like we gotta talk about what does that mean. And then sometimes when we get to this picture right here where you see the smiling face and then under she looking abused and all that, I think sometimes as women, and y'all please don't get mad at me when I'm getting ready to say, but this is real talk. So let me just say this. I had just watched a documentary on Iceberg Slim. Watched that last night. It was quite interesting. Um, this is the dude, that's the author, that's the book, who lived in the street and had street life. And it was very interesting how people rationalized the pimp game. And Snoop was on there, and Ice-T, people who I don't listen to in rap, no disrespect, but they're not my peoples like that. I've never listened to them back in the day. That's not my frequency. So it's not a bad thing. I just don't listen to them. But I hear them justifying pimping. And I thought to myself, wow, this is quite interesting. But what Iceberg Slim was trying to do was and this is what he said out of his own lips. He said he was trying to inflate the pimping thing and let them know that it's just not a good thing, even though he wrote about it. But you can write about some things, and then sometimes we will take it and flip it like it's a good thing. It's crazy. It can work and be positive, and it can work and be negative. And in this case, it was a negative, but it was his story. But at the root of his story, he talked about the issues that he had with his mother, and because she came from trauma. And so they both his parents was in, it was hard for Black folks. I think sometimes it was just hard, you know what I mean? Because you're trying to make a way in the world that does not want you in the world. So this isn't some new shit that started in the last 30 years. You understand? This probably started in 1555 or 1692 or whatever year we want to claim. I think it started right from there. As I just watched this weekend, I watched Enslaved with Samuel Jackson Host, and it was incredible. I like watching stuff like that because it really helps me to understand the psychology of what's happened to us as a people. You got to watch those things. You really do. So for me, you can never document our slave experience enough for me. because I think it helps you to understand what we're dealing with. So this is not some shit that just happened in 1992. Like this is something that's coming, is moving forward. But you have to be brave enough to address it and to flip it back to wherever you want it to be, or to take it to where you want it to be. The reason why I brought up Iceberg Slim, and why I'm talking about this with mental health, is that he talked about his relationship with his mother. And so didn't say too much about his dad, but it talked a lot about his relationship with his mom. Same thing. I watched Richard Pryor this morning in his documentary. I like to watch documentary, and he talked about his mother abandoning him. His father, they both abandoned him, but he was really bent on his mother. And then it's a show where he was on. He got a break, and his mother was in the audience. He talked about how much he loved his mother, and he could never hold it against her. And blah, you know what I mean? Like it was just so beautiful. But what I'm saying here, that relationship with your mother is very crucial, because your mom is the person who nurtured you when you're in their womb. That's why I'm going to always go to this thing about the womb man. There's something divine and unique about being a woman, and about you being that nurturer. Your children, they live in you first, Black woman. You are the life giver. That's a big responsibility. That's not something that God gave to man. God gave that to woman, or divine order, great spirit, whatever you want to call it, gave that to us. So there's something about when you get this mission, if you will, you know, not to take it too lightly, not to take it too lightly. And so if you are a mother and you're having some mental health problems, more than likely some of that will visit your children. You understand what I'm saying? So if you have issues that are happening to you and you don't address them, and then it develops into your personality, and then you find yourself in this world where you lie a lot, or you complain a lot, or you keep a lot of trauma, and a lot of drama going, and you just be on a bunch of messy shit, then your children, some of them, you know what I mean, will begin to do the same thing, because they think that's how you show up on the planet. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to face your own self so you can be as healthy as you need to be. It takes a lot. You know, the mark of when you're really trying to work on yourself is when you can apologize to people for things that you may have done that was wrong. When you apologize for your behavior, when you have the courage to tell your children, you know what, that's not right. You should not have done that. My mother, blessed memory, no matter how old she was, how old I was, she would still check me. If somebody came and told her, Londa did so and so, she would not be like, not my child. She'd be like, let me go talk to Londa. She better not have done that. Because my mother used to say, I don't know what my children would do when they're not my sight. I pray that they would do the right thing, because that's how I reared them. But I don't know, because my mom know that people are influenced and people have their own mind. She would not sit there and defend some cruelty stuff that I've done, or something that was hurtful. She would not say, well, maybe, no, you don't say stuff like that to people. That's not who we are. You see that I'm connected. That's why I'm showing this generations here. This is another 5-generation picture. So it really means something, family. It really means something. So we got to talk about mental health today. We really got to talk about changing, some of the things that we practiced that weren't healthy. Yes, she did, sis. Yes, she did. So we got to talk about that. We got to talk about that. Because otherwise, how are we going to get better? Like, it's great. Today is Sunday in the United States, because I see Zitney's on here from South Africa. Hey, beautiful. But in the United States, it's Sunday. And there's a lot of people in church and a lot of people at the mosque. which is beautiful. That's where they get their spiritual nourishment. But I also think we need to get that mental health nourishment. Like we got to check this mind. Because in order to make this world, see, it's easy to look at, say, the president and talk about his tweets or the ex-president and his tweets. But are we doing some shit like that? Are we in conflict with people that we knew we were wrong with? That we had some say so in that? Are we really practicing the Christ consciousness? Are we really practicing that? Because some of us would treat a stranger better than we would the people that we claim we love. This morning, I was listening to the rappers talk about DMX, and Swiss Beats said something that his whole thing, he said, I totally understood. Because what I began to really understand when I looked at DMX, because everything to me has the lessons. My brain is like, there's all these lessons. And one brother said DMX found him in the gutter and he made him. So a lot of them felt like that. This is the man who gave me life. I get it. And then Swiss Beats got up there and said, how all of y'all showed up for DMX. I wish I would have showed up like this for him when he was living. And he started talking about how sometimes in death, I did a post and I said, Black folks will celebrate your dead ass and claim how and talk about how much they love you. And I meant that because I feel like that's a part of the mental health issues that we have in our community. Like we'll rush to celebrate you when you're dead. We'll rush to make you a hashtag. We'll rush to march for your life. But when the person was walking around here breathing, they could not get a job with us. They couldn't get most of us to smile on them and say good morning or hello. These are our mental health issues as a people. This is stuff that we could improve on if we just smiled on each other. When I think about slavery and I think, how did our ancestors survive such harsh treatments? I think they did some of that. Because if you acknowledge the divine in someone else, there's no way that somebody can take that from you. They could try to beat the hell out you, but they could never take that from you. No one could ever take away your demeanor and the way that you see yourself and how you reflect that onto others. You can never take that away. So it don't even matter what you do to my body. You cannot take that part, that inner part of me, that where divine lives. Has nothing to do with my clothes. It has nothing to do with what kind of shoes I wear. That divineness in us, no one can take that away. No one. And we can do better. We can do better. But I think we got to check ourselves. I'm not talking about the person walking around here talking to themselves, because really they're kind of like ahead of the game because they don't lie. They walking around saying what their truth is. They're not walking around here with a mask on, because a lot of us are walking around here with masks on. We walking around like we're looking the part. We are looking fly as hell. We're walking around just like this sister in the picture. You know, we're walking around like we got it all together. You can't tell me Nathan. We walking around just like her. But really, we haven't done that work in the inside. You know what I mean? To clear up all of this. You know, we haven't really told the truth to ourselves because we're so concerned about how somebody's going to see us. But see, here's the truth. I want y'all to listen to this. People already know. People already know. You know, if I see a person and she don't have her hair out of place, I'll be thinking, damn, she must have spent the hell of hours in front of that mirror looking picture perfect, because this shit's probably so fucked up in a disarray. That's like seeing someone and they look top notch beautiful, and you go to their house and it's filthy. And you be like, damn. You know, that's like seeing someone and every time you see them, they're smiling and nothing's wrong. And then you start to get to know them and be like, you need to be talking to a damn therapist. As the old people say, you need some prayer. That was one of the things the girl said, you should pray. I said, absolutely. So I think, family, that I just believe in the power of who we are as a people. I absolutely believe it. I know the power of Black folks. You know, I know that if we don't allow ourselves to get caught up, that we will be okay. That I know. But that means you're going to have to do some serious soul searching. You have to look inside of yourself. Now, if you're happy with where you are, this is what I tell my girls when I'm working in juvenile hall and other places. I always say, if it works for you, then you're good. If you cool with your position, my job is not to convince you that something's wrong. That's not my job. But if you really don't like where you are, you know what I mean? Then you have to have some courage. This is not the time to cower. It's not that time. You got to have some courage. Trade that coward word in for some courage and deal with yourself. Tell the truth to yourself. Stand in your own divine rightness. You can do it. And yeah, you may lose some friends, but they probably wasn't your friends in the first damn place. So you really don't need them. Really, you don't. But you're going to have to do that inner work. That inner work. You're going to have to wake up. Some people look in the mirror and be like, you really ain't, this ain't you. I know I ain't the only person that been in positions and be like, what the hell? How did I get here? This is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not where I'm supposed to be. There have been times where I was dealing with people and I was like, why am I giving this person any of my goddamn time? Why am I fooling with this person? I found myself saying that. Why am I giving this person? When I started to understand that I did not have to give everybody honey, like everybody's not deserving of my honey. And what I mean, I don't just mean in an intimate relationship. I'm talking about like just like I learned that I'm the type of person I come and I can bring the sun when I come into a room. I could come, hey, good morning, hey, everybody. Hey, like I'm her. But what I learned is I didn't have to give her to everybody. Silence is golden. Like I learned the art of when I was dealing with people and say if they was really like didn't really like me, I didn't have to give them any honey. I could say good morning, but I was not gonna let them play in my head. I was not gonna do that because I love me too much. You know, you got to think about who are you letting into your environment. These are the things you have to ask yourself. Who am I letting in here? Are they healthy for me? Are they good for me? You know, and I mean good for me, not just when everything is great, but when things are not great. Will they be the person that lift me up? I know this when I'm saying I want to go do something, and if I find a person saying, "How you gonna do that?" Immediately I'm drop kicking you. Get out my business. I want that person to say, "Girl, you would whatever you gonna do, you could do. Whatever you want to do, you can do." Those are healthy people. When you hear people say, "What you need, sis?" Understand you working on something. What you need? Okay. I said to people, "How can I help?" But if you're gonna give me all the reasons why I can't do something, I can't mess with you. You no good for me. Just not gonna be able to do it because mentally I have to protect myself. You know, I have to go back to the women, and let me tell you why I got to go back to that. Because I'm a woman, of course, but women we have a lot of power. We're like the. Somebody said that in the game of chess, the most powerful piece on the board is the woman. I don't know. I don't play chess. That's just what I heard. But when you say it like that, it makes me feel like I need to look at that because sometimes in our culture, we can make people feel pretty powerless. You understand what I'm saying? Pretty powerless. Let me tell you why I got to go back to us. We are so powerful as a people. But when you're a Black woman, you're very powerful. There's something in us that allows us to create when there's basically nothing to create from, so we think. And this is what I've seen with the Black woman. You know, I've watched them make things appear that there was nothing there before. But if we do not teach our girls that divine secret, which is really not a big secret, but it feels like a secret, about how sacred they really are, about how precious we really are, about how powerful we really are. And we won't even live, some of us, to even do this. You understand what I'm saying? This is 4 generations. You're lucky if you can do 5. But I think we could definitely do 4. But you have to know something about yourself. We need to be healthy, family. We need to be happy. We need to look upon our daughters and not see the part of them that we despise because it's in us. We got to look and see the part of them that is so powerful and so precious and make sure they're on purpose and to elevate them and to make sure they're okay and that they're feeling wonderful and they're feeling great. But you also have to do that when they do something wrong. There's a way of holding them accountable and still loving them at the same time. So we can feel the way the baby looks in the picture. Because when we get wounded as children, there's a lot of people, like I hear all of this talk about, we got to make sure the young women, look, granted, young people do need all of that, straight up. But so do people that are seasoned. See, we do a lot of counseling, a lot of counseling of people by age. We say that we love children, but when they turn into adults, we don't love them as much. When everybody should be loved and cherished. You don't stop growing when you turn 18, when you turn 21, when you turn 40. You are still growing. Most of the time, you don't even know what you need until what you really want, until you're damn near sometimes 50 or 60. Sometimes you really don't even know what you want yet. You're still learning about what you like, what you don't. Right on, sis. It does come first at all times, you know. But I find in this culture, we always had this. It's about the young people. It's really about everybody because everybody's connected to everybody. You don't get to be that nurturing elder if you wasn't a young person at one point when you were nurtured. That's why it becomes so natural. I don't know if you ever been around babies and a baby be really happy and playful. What happened that the baby don't get to be playful anymore? What do we cancel in each other to make us feel like, well, you're an adult now, so you have to have struggle and everything has to be hard and painful. You understand what I'm saying? You can only ask for help on Sundays. What is that about? I struggle with that. Like, well, how do we do that? Why can't we look at each other and smile on each other and say good morning? Why can't we do that? Why can't we be loving and nurturing all the time? Why can't we be that way? Even if you get into trouble, there's a way when you're in trouble to still be nurtured. So we're not walking around here feeling like this all day. Some of us walk around the planet feeling like this all day, like the world is so heavy on your shoulders. You know what I learned? I learned that no matter how much trouble or how much struggle I have, that it really don't mean shit. I think that's why I used to go to bed early. Seriously, if I have some stuff on my plate that's heavy, I have to go to sleep. Dead serious. And then I wake up and I can't even remember what I was, so stressed about. But then I have a clearer mind and I can think my way through it. But if it's really heavy, I can't look at it. Pieces, I can't look at it. I have to I have to rest a little bit because then I can find out what's going on. I'm the queen of taking a bath. My bathroom got all kind of smelly good stuff in it. I will make a bath, sit in there and be damn near asleep just to calm myself. Then when I get that recharge, then I can think about, girl, I can finish. Let me finish. Or this is my plan. Or I can at least see something. I can call and talk to somebody that I couldn't call and talk to before because I felt so overwhelmed. Those are things that I've learned. Because one thing I learned about the world, it's going to always be spinning. Nothing can feel this heavy. I'm thinking about the young sister who was killed by the cops, and to hear some of the shit people were saying about this young sister, it made my stomach hurt. That immediately we want to, it kind of also tells you about the environment that we're in. That all you could do is justify somebody killing somebody else. That just made my stomach hurt. Because I've seen the police subdue a white man with a fucking sawed-off shotgun. Where they could have killed him immediately. But they talked him down. So we got to take out of our head this thing about Black women being so aggressive and you can't tell them shit. And yeah, that's your weak ass talking. Because if she hadn't been that way, we would have perished in this country. We would have perished if the Black woman haven't had the mouth, if she didn't get out there and fight. So goddamn it, you defend her like Pierce did the Queen. He was standing by that. And they said, well, yes, because he's a loyalist. But God damn it, we need to get some loyalty. This is the woman who gives you life. How the hell you going? Are you serious? I don't give a damn if she came out the house, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. She's dead now. So the killing of us has to stop. But we got to do some mental health checkups up here, Black folks. Because some of this stuff with mental health, we can control in our own community. See, I don't know about y'all, but I'm from a place called Swain Street. Let me tell you about Swain Street. My ancestors came to Swain Street like in the early 1900s, like the really early 1901 or something. So that's how long we've been, over 100 years on Swain Street. But when I was there in the 70s, we lived there in the 70s. We had people who had so-called mental health issues. And they were a part of our community. We had people who served in wars, and when it would be the 4th of July and people get to popping off, somebody would sit with that person because they knew this person was reacting from the war. Let me tell you about the people who didn't have all the formal education and how they cared for each other. And they didn't need no goddamn grant or some professional person telling them how they should deal with their own mental health. Because we knew how to do that. We knew how to sit on the steps and hold somebody's hand and talk their way through it. We knew how to make 2 pots of beans and take 1 pot of beans over to the neighbor to make sure that they had food because they knew they was having some hard times. See, let me tell you about how my ancestors, my elders, my people made it through. And that's why you got to know your history. You can't make up no shit. You can't do generic history. You got to know your own history. My grandmother was deaf and mute. How did my grandmother make it over? To be a Black woman and to be deaf and mute. And she was born in 1903 or 1906, somewhere around there. How did she make it through? How did her community surround her? Those are the questions you got to ask yourself. If you don't know anything about yourself, you know what I mean? Right on, sis. I agree. Compassion does still work. But I'm just saying there is something that we got to follow back up on. See, we have to go back and look at our history. The stuff we experienced, it ain't new. None of this stuff is new. Now we're just recording it. How do we deal with the traumas that are happening in our community? You see, I don't really think that you have to necessarily go to the so-called professional, though they're great to have, to teach people how to have compassion, to care about each other. If I send a sister walking down the street and she look, hey sis, you all right? You okay, sis? That costs nothing. You could be saving this person's life. I was listening on NPR one day, and the man was saying it's a black man who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, most people who jump off the bridge, they don't survive. And he said the brother said he had left this, he was really going to jump off this bridge. And a white man was driving by, and he had like something didn't look right. And he started talking to the man, talking him down. You all right, sir? You okay? You know, eventually he talked his brother down. They're sharing the story. How many times have we seen people? And we may say, hey, how you doing? But we really don't give a damn. But seriously, how often have we checked up on people? How often did we really sit and listen to what this person has to say? When the baby girl in my class talked about talking to her grandmother, and I asked her, why do she like to talk to her grandmother? She said, because she makes me feel like everything's going to be okay. I said, well, how does she do that? She said, because she hugged me and she listens to me. That was comfort, comfort, and confirmation. Y'all get that? Comfort, 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 confirmation. And some of us that I'm convinced that on Swain Street, there was comfort there. Everybody on that whole block knew me. They all knew me. They knew that I was May's daughter and June's daughter. Those are my parents, May and June. You know, they knew my grandmother, my cousins, and all of us lived up around that way. There's something about the village, and to me, the village is anywhere I am. So if I'm in South Africa, I'm still in my village. If I'm in Ghana, I'm still in my village. If I'm in North Philly, I'm still in my village. If I'm in Texas, I'm still in my village. If I'm in Chicago, I'm in my village. And when I'm in Sacramento, I am in my village. To me, the village is everywhere. Everywhere I've gone, the village has been. But I do believe the one thing my ancestors were able to give me was the gift of having compassion and to care about people, to acknowledge their being. See, I don't know about y'all. One of the things that used to get on my nerves about living out here in Sacramento is people could look you right in the face and don't say hi. I only seen that happen in Sacramento. Now, if I was down in, say, Oakland, because Oakland has more Southern Black people in it. That's what I believe. So people are used to you bring your ways with you. Sacramento just used to feel different. I think it's changing, but people could look right at you and like not even acknowledge your being. It's like they look right through you. Hey, I make you, hey, how you doing? Like that's, you know what I mean? But there is something about the acknowledgement. Because even in slavery, when people were trying to make us feel like we were not human beings, we knew how to communicate with each other. We knew how to acknowledge each other's beings just by looking at each other. We didn't even have to use the words. There's something about when you lock eyes with somebody, you can say so much to them just by your lock of your eyes and the nodding of your head. I've had that experience. When I went to vote one time, I voted for Barack Obama both times. It didn't even matter for me. First time I went to go vote, I'm here in Elk Grove. There is a lot of white people voting in line. An elder black woman was coming out from voting, and I was in line to go in. And she looked at me and just she had like girl, I just voted for the man. And I looked back at her like, and I'm going in to do it right now. We didn't even say the words. It was that communication. There was a lot of people around us, people coming all out the voting booth. We going in and we looked at each other. I got you, sis. You think black folks ain't been doing that since we've been here? When we didn't have a language that we could talk? You think we don't know how to? I do that in other parts of the world and meet folks and be like, oh my God, with my eyeballs. And they're like, hey, sis, oh my God. You know, that's how powerful we are. That's how connected we are. So if we want to deal with mental health, we have to get back to when we talk to each other like that, when we acknowledge each other like that. And I'm not saying people don't is not gonna need to do what they gotta do, but I really, really believe in my spirit that we are so powerful, that we are so powerful. Do you hear me? We are so powerful that we can really heal each other, love each other, be accountable to each other by just acknowledging each other. Excuse me, family. I think it's no water. But that's how powerful we are as a people. We are that powerful. Excuse me for just a minute. Okay. Whew. Sorry about that, family. I had to get something to drink. My throat was getting a little dry. So what I was saying to you was there's a way in which we can acknowledge each other so that everybody can get some love, from the youngest to the oldest. And we hold us all and everyone in between in love and compassion we are witnessing, the load would be lightened. It would lighten itself up. If we could teach people our stories, not for them to claim the stories for themselves, what I mean by that. So no, I'm not going to ever talk about that I was on Section 8. Rolanda Wilkins, have never been on Section 8, but my mama was. And she had two jobs and just could not afford the rent. And because of her, I have the life that I have. So I'm not claiming her story like that. That's what she did to survive. I don't claim things that I didn't live. I may explain it to you. Like, let me tell you about Mama May and the things that she went through so that we didn't have to go through it. Let me tell you, I don't know how she made it through and not have any mental health problems that we knew of. Because Lord knows she went through a lot of shit. Being in a state, in a place that was not her own, but she still made it. The strength that she must have had. I don't know where she took time to have a break. And she worked 3 jobs and still had to be on Section 8. That was not easy for her. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how you tell the story. You don't say you were on Section 8 because you were never on Section 8. Your grandmama was, or your mama, or whatever. But don't make up stuff. Talk about, have some courage to look at yourself. Because I don't know about you, one day I want to be that person in the middle of this picture. I would love to live as old as she is. Can you imagine all the stories she has? How beautiful she is. And those are her daughters and her granddaughters and her great-great-granddaughter and her great-great-granddaughter. That's how long this woman's been on the planet in this picture. But you don't get to be this old on the bullshit. You don't get to be that old. She's lived long enough to see her descendants lines down the road. She has lived long enough to see technology rolling the way it's rolling in. She has lived long enough to see a black president. I guess that was important at one part in your life. You know, she has lived long enough to see some things. And she's lived long enough to remember when things weren't as great. You know what I mean? You don't get to do that on the bullshit. You don't get to do that. She could probably tell you stories that people who probably supported her who are no longer here anymore. She lived long enough to remember when black folks pulled together, and not out of no guilt, not no con man pulled together. She could tell you she lived in a time where black men were accountable to each other. You will never see no black man trying to tell a black woman how to be a woman. After watching Iceberg swim, I don't think men should be telling women about what it means to be a woman because you don't know what the fuck that's like. You don't know. You should be protecting her because she is the giver of life. You should be protecting her at all costs. I love it when I see black men know there's something wrong. Hey, sis, you all right? Oh, yeah, bro, I'm great. Sometimes I'll be shocked when that happens. I'll be like, oh, okay. Because sometimes I've been around black men being such cowards, they will never say nothing to another man, especially if it pertains to a woman. I remember times when men stood up and was like, you don't talk to her like that. You come and find her dad or her uncle or somebody, but you don't talk to her like that. See, all of that was the village. That's what I grew up in on Swain Street. That's what Swain Street gave me. That was my root. That's what I learned. I had no idea growing up that my people came there in 1901. I didn't know that. Straight up out of Virginia, straight up out of South Carolina and North Carolina, that they came to Philadelphia. Do you understand what I'm saying? Those are things we have to know because then you'll begin to understand this whole mental health piece that we're experiencing. We will know how to better react. I think to tell black folks not to call the cops and somebody killing you, that's insane. Unless you're saying, here is a system that we have to be accountable to each other. So call us instead. We'll come over there and help or whatever. See, we don't even say shit like that anymore. Every day I'm posting about black women being murdered in this country. And not at the hands of white people, at the hands of other black people. So there is a way in which we can control this narrative. There's a way that we can do it. See, I don't know about y'all, but I come from people who self-governed. That's why I know how to self-govern. I've had elders who told me things and I shut it down. Like, hey, yes, ma'am. I come from that tradition and that culture. When I was in juvenile hall on Friday and I was talking to them and I said, well, in my culture, and I kept saying it, and a black girl said, well, what are you? And I said, I'm African American. I'm black. And she said, I am too. But how do you have a culture? And then I had to explain that to her where that came from. Y'all get me? I took the time to explain it. And then the little sister told me that one of her parents was Jamaican. I said, now what you doing in here? We both chuckled a little bit. And she was like, wow, I like it when you come. I like when you come in here. But I was saying all of us have a culture, baby. All of us do. And I'm pretty sure in your culture, you ain't supposed to be in here. She was like, you're right. I said, I know. But she wasn't used to seeing a person that looked like her talk about what, in my tradition, in my culture, this is what we do. And she was like, but we the same. And I was like, we may look the same, but I come from a culture. And you do too. But maybe you just don't remember or you wasn't taught it. But that's my job. Because somewhere along the line, family, some of us have failed. Because you fail, you don't have to lay in the failure. You can still get up and redeem yourself by helping those around you. You don't have to stay in your failure. While some of us was getting the gotten the getting, we forgot that at some point you're gonna be old. And the people that you touch on your way to getting now may have to take care of you. Well, they take the time because you didn't take the time with them. Did y'all hear me? So we don't think about that. We never think about we're going to get old one day. And we're going to be asking young people to take time with us. For some of us, they may have to wipe our butts. Some of us, we may have to live with these people. Would they do it kicking and screaming, or would they do it with open arms? Like, of course, you always have a place here. Or would they be like, oh God, this person gonna have to stay with somebody. I don't want nobody referencing me like that. That's why I've always put in the work. See, what y'all don't understand, all the deeds you do are stored. And they kick in when you need it. But if you are selfish your whole life, you can't ask for people to kick it in. When you ain't gave nothing. If you didn't give anything, why would they kick it in? That's why you got to be on point. And maybe one day you'll live to be this woman in the middle of the picture. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I remember. That's how you know you're getting old when you say, this is what I remember. I'm with my little nieces and nephews. They are gaining memory from me right now. So when they're old, they're going to remember the stuff I did with them. They're going to remember how they seen our family gatherings. Y'all hear me? They're going to remember that there's something else. Whatever they may go through in the world, they're going to remember their root. That's why we have solitude. See, in your solitude is where you remember everything. So you have to say, what would you want your descendants and your descendants to say about their root? What would you want them to say? You right on, cuz. Hey, the energy you give and you receive, right on. That's exactly what I'm saying, cuz. And I just know we're creating these memories, family. So if our kids see us cussing and fussing, that's a memory. I was watching Richard Pryor's story. I watched Iceberg Slims. I watched damn it, James Brown. I'm going down the list. I watched, and they talked about in their root of their lives, they had seen nothing but men and women talk about their parents fighting their ass off and being in a lot of violence. And even in DMX's story, it was in the root of his. And I thought to myself, we have no idea, because when they got past, what I loved that what DMX said in the interview before, he said, really ain't the drugs. I mean, that's just a symptom. But it was the shit I experienced in my childhood that I'm trying to get some comfort and relief from. So here he is as a grown man, and he's still struggling with those memories. Y'all hear that? There's a way in which we can get past this. Oh, thank you, cuz. But there's something about that. So if you have young ones around you, if you have old ones around you, help them create those memories. See, I want people to think of me and smile. I don't want them to be like, "Ooh, Jesus, I'm so ooh, ooh." I don't want that. I want them to be like, "Man, blessed memory. That's my Aunt Ro." That's what the hell I want to hear. You see what I'm saying? Because I want to be a part of the memories that people want to remember in a good way. We're all a part of somebody's memory. Every last one of us. So, family, I show you this picture. I look at this elder in the center of her fifth generation, and I just know that's how I want to be. From the youngest to the oldest. We can check this mental health stuff, family. There's some power in it. We got some power in it. I'm not saying you ain't got to go sit on the couch and get some therapy. I'm not saying that. Please do that. But what I'm saying is that the environment that we create for people to live and thrive and survive, we can control that. We can create that as Black people. We can do that. We can do that. But we got to want to do it. We have to make sure that we're creating a loving environment. I don't know about y'all. When I think about going into my Aunt Wendy's house, immediately I can smell cabbage and greens cooking together. I'm probably going to make some of that today because I just spoken and said her name. I remember walking into her house on a Sunday and smelling the aroma coming out of her kitchen. When I went to go see my cousin Gigi, when I was standing in her living room, I immediately seen my Aunt Winnie. And I remember sitting in her living room and looking at the mirrors that would face each other in the next dining room where you could see your reflection. But I was seeing all of that. That was my memory bank going to town because I remember her and all the goodness that she gave me when I would come see her. We are creating memories, family, which has everything to do with the mental health of us. So, family, take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, socially. Take care of yourself. Be aware of who you're letting in to your space, to your mind. Be aware of who you're calling friend and foe. Be aware of who you're allowing in your sacred space, which is you. Make sure that they're elevating, that they're loving you, that they're being honest with you. Because you, family, are a part of someone's memory bank. All right, family. I'm about to get out of here. Thank y'all for listening to me today and love on each other in a good way. Peace, family. Hey, cuz, what you say? Oh, thank you, cuz. Hey, it's my Shaka Khan. Don't get it twisted.